Hi, and welcome. I'm Bryan Green, host of The Commercial Break. I'm a son, a father, a husband, a passionate pragmatist, a Facebook doctor, and a Twitter epidemiologist. I started The Commercial Break after the world suddenly locked down in early 2020. It's like we're in a real-life commercial break. Every podcast, we'll interview experts and idiots alike. We'll give advice on how to survive this lockdown with only high-speed internet, Netflix, food, and air conditioning. We'll talk to people with opposing viewpoints, and we'll get the stories behind them. Together, we'll dive deep into the world during and after the age of Corona. So enjoy the episode of this Commercial Break.
Have you lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in the real estate market recently because you've been scammed by scammy scammers? Don't worry, I have spent at least 13 seconds learning how to turn the tables. You too can be a Nigerian real estate scammer online for free. I'm going to show you how to make multiple fake Facebook pages, and you're going to become the king of internet marketing. Buy my series now today, $19.99 plus $19.99 shipping and handling. And right now, if you act quickly, I'm going to throw in another package for $19.99 plus $19.99 shipping and handling. It's a deal you can't beat. Send it to a friend, send it to a family, give it to your dog. It doesn't matter. Everyone's going to be making money on this brand new series.
Coming up on this episode of The Commercial Break. We're going to get you a microphone eventually. It sounds perfectly fine, to be honest with you. You sound perfectly fine. So that's good news. However, looking at a map of Atlanta. Somewhere down in Atlanta. Yeah, use your FaceTime camera. You have to go back to the permissions? Oh my God, back to the
allow OS permissions. I have to go back to the permissions. Okay. Yeah, with an Apple.
No one told me. No one told me it was going to be this difficult.
Okay, hold on.
I should have written a book.
Hold on, hold please.
You can't hear me?
Uh-oh.
Oh, okay.
I can't hear you now. Oh, there you go.
If I wrote a book, would you do the foreword? Warning, the commercial break contains racy language and off-color joking. If you're easily offended, you may want to press pause, and if you have small children in the room, you're an awful parent. Now, enjoy the show.
Yeah. Hi.
Okay, I can see you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Through your Bluetooth?
I can hear you through my AirPods. Jeff, you can't hear Bryan, right? Nope, we're good.
Wow, look at that. We started a podcast. Cheers. Look at my... Look, we started a podcast. It's official.
That was the podcast. Just saying that.
Oh, that was the podcast? Luckily, I recorded most of it. So I'm going to try and do that. Look at my mug.
What is that?
I don't know. It's like gay pride or something.
That's
We look like they're having the best time in the world during the quarantine.
I know, exactly. For the
She's
same
like
day.
writing signs and rolling in the grass. You're loved. Stick with it. Don't worry.
I know.
Focus on the good.
I'm like, they are perfect for each other. They're great that they found themselves.
They are. It's just curiously optimistic. How curiously optimistic they're being. The rest of us are like, my bank account says, fuck you, 0. Like, keep focused on the sunshine, man. I'm happy that some people are still staying optimistic. So,
Absolutely.
I appreciate you coming on my first podcast. It only took 42 minutes to get on the podcast, and I'm being charged by the hour on this fucking podcast. So,
well, now that we know how it all works, it's good.
I called it the commercial break because I work in commercial real estate. So at first, I called it the commercial break because about 2 years ago, I had the idea, since I work in commercial real estate, I was going to call it the commercial break, right? Which I thought was kind of a kitschy little, cute little name.
Clever.
And I was going to, if anything, I'm clever. And so
you too.
What's
you
that?
Be clever. I said
you too can be clever for $99.99 a month. Scam your friends, get money out of your grandma. And look cute the entire time doing it. I'm going to show you a wry smile that gets $10 out of any old lady's can purse. Call now. If you call now for an extra $99.99, I'm going to send in an extra package of $99.99 per $99.99 self-envelope envelope.
Go now.
I'm going to send you a list of all grandmas across the country. My grandma, your grandma, everyone's going to give you $10 because you have cancer of the knee. But you're clever, and that's kind of cute. So, Commercial Break was about commercial real estate because, I work in this it's a really nutty industry. Like, there's a lot of, Donald Trump was in commercial real estate. So you can imagine just how insane some of the stories that I hear or that I'm involved in are. These people are building these $150 million. Listen, commercial real estate is the rules are soft edges, But then I came to the realization that, like, if I'm going to tell all these stories on air, I'm probably not going to have much business. Not that anybody's going to find my stupid fucking podcast in the middle of nowhere, but so I just kind of shelved it. Yeah. And then I got together with Allison Risk Hair. She's been podcasting, right? So she's got this podcast, and so she's got this like little mastermind group. So we all get together, and she motivated me to do another podcast. So then when I was laying with my son the other night, and I was like watching TV, and a commercial came on, and I thought to myself, you know what? We're all in a commercial break. We're like in a forced fucking interruption right now. That no one likes and no one wants, but you have to watch it. It's like you have to be here. There's nothing else that we can do. It's a crazy time to be alive.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
Are you and Jeff taking this seriously? Are you guys like staying home? And yeah,
we've got the masks and the gloves and the the protective eyewear, hand sanitizer. Yeah, we're running low on that, dangerously low.
Are you running low on hand sanitizer?
We are. We only had a few bottles before all of this hit. They were like the miniature ones.
I got you covered. When this all started, I went on a website that was like showed up on my Facebook, and it said buy a gallon of hand sanitizer for $14.99. So I bought 3 gallons of hand sanitizer.
Nice.
Yeah, and I still have the old hand sanitizer that I haven't used yet. So it's like I have 3 gallons. I'll send you. I don't know how I send a gallon of hand sanitizer, but I'm going to get you covered. Yeah, I think we have to take this seriously, and I don't think it's necessarily about. To me, this is not about whether or not this is a flu or is it that serious or are some people going to die. It's about not having apocalyptic scenes like showing up at the hospital and not being able to be taken care of when you're gravely ill. Like that to me is very scary. And I wouldn't want anybody I know to go through that. If literally you showed up at one of the hospitals here in Atlanta and they just couldn't accommodate you and you couldn't breathe, like that to me would be nightmarish, right?
Absolutely. No, or even just if you have anything that goes wrong. I know I was just talking to Kelly, my sister, and she was talking about that her son fell the other day and hit his head, off a pretty high picnic table thing. And he's a 2-year-old little boy, and they're freaking out. He's got a huge bump on his head, and they're like, we don't want to go to the ER. So they had to kind of monitor him, and he's okay. But yeah, it's a scary time to even just have an accident happen, or if you broke your leg or something, just wow.
I'm watching my son.
It's like Walking Dead style, like tourniquet.
It's pretty crazy. I was watching my son, and I'm like, he's like a little fucking monkey because he's 21 months old. Yeah. He's a strong little guy, right? He's a big boy. He's like in the 90th percentile, and he's a strong little boy. I caught him the other day. I had a ladder so I could get something out of the top of my closet. He was at the top of an 8-foot ladder. He was. I turned the corner, and like in 12 seconds, he was at the top of that ladder. And I was like, "Don't you fucking break a leg right now? You think I want to go get the fucking Rona at Northside Hospital when I take you to get your leg set in a cast? Don't do it, son." Everyone has to pay. And then my wife's pregnant, and that's just really fucking scary.
I know. What are you guys doing? Are you preparing? Like what? I don't even know what I would be thinking about. what are you guys doing?
I mean, listen, there's nothing like she ain't going to stop being pregnant, right?
So no, but I mean about delivery.
I guess it's going to all go down the way it's supposed to. So interesting story. We went to the baby doctor this morning. So she's right at about she's 28 weeks. So she's 6 months, couple weeks pregnant. So she goes for her regular checkup. Now the checkups, they're usually every month. And now they start every 2 weweeks. So now you're like into the serious part of the pregnancy. You cannot forget that Astrid is pregnant because of the ways that she looks, because she's big, right?
Yeah.
And the baby's always kicking. And that's that was exciting on the first child. Now it's scary because it's a reminder that it's coming up real fast and the world's a total fucking dumpster fire right now.
Right.
I mean, honestly. So she went to the baby doctor this morning.
Although it looks beautiful outside today.
It's a gorgeous day to be in the middle of a pandemic.
I mean, it's so weird. It's so surreal.
So she goes to the doctor this morning. I'll finish the story. So she goes to the doctor this morning. And the last time we went to the doctor, there were 3 separate triage places inside of the doctor's office. So like one when you got to the lobby, one when you got upstairs from the elevator, when you got off the elevator was another triage, which is where they take your temperature. They ask you a series of questions, and the people are in like full hazmat suits, right? And then there's a third separate triage when you get inside the doctor's office. And then they don't allow more than, at the time, this is not today's visit, but the last visit a month ago, there were 4 people in the office, my wife and I and another couple, and they had to sit across the office from each other in the lobby. They had signs on the floor that said patient and visitor please sit here, and patient and visitor please sit here, and then all the other chairs had like X's around them, like you can't sit here. And every time when the other couple got up, another lady in a full hazmat suit came and she disinfected everything that they had touched. It was really surreal. I mean, I was like, wow, this is insane. But you don't want your fucking baby doctor to have coronavirus, because that's really bad fucking news. Nor do you want your mama or the baby to have coronavirus. So I took it at face value last time. This time, same thing, different office. The doctor has 2 offices, different office, same thing, triage downstairs, triage upstairs. But when I get to the office, they say, we apologize. Guests and spouses are no longer allowed into appointments.
Oh, wow. My God.
This really shook me a little bit, because I had heard in New York, at least for a small period of time, that they had shut down anybody being with a mother while she gave birth. So there were a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 women that gave birth without a spouse, a mother, a father, a partner. And that's C-section, natural birth, unnatural. 2 out of 10 births do not go the way that they're planned. It's still an extraordinarily dangerous thing to go through. And you have, the way that Astrid went, her pregnancy last time, the birth, if she goes through this now alone,
oh my God.
Can't even, it makes me so nervous. But the doctor reassured Astrid that everything's going to be okay. Like the place where we're having the baby, nothing's going to happen. They're still allowing at least spouses in. We just can't go anywhere. Like once I get in, I'm locked in, and there's no switcheroos. Like no switchy roosies. I can't just like hand the baton
down
to my dad.
with a McDonald's.
Yeah.
For a
I'm gonna go get some French fries, and Dad's gonna come in and watch you. Last time we were there, it was like a fucking party. We had this huge suite, and everyone was coming in and out, and people were drinking champagne. It was a big fucking party. Now it's gonna feel more like, I think, giving birth in Siberia. It's gonna be like, you're here, you're gonna stay here until the very fucking end. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have to pack an extra e-cigarette, I suppose. It's a scary time. It's a scary time, and I think we're in it for the long haul. I think.
Really scary.
What do you? How do you think we get out of this quickly? Like, what do you think needs to be done in order for the country to reopen? Donald's gonna reopen the country. So, what do you think needs to be done for the country to reopen?
A vaccine.
That's a good one. Yeah, I mean that's a cure-all, right? It's a panacea. It's like,
well, even when they come up with the vaccine, though, think about how they're going to have to get this out to everybody. I mean, this is going to take a while. Everybody just needs to like get into the saddle and figure out the quote unquote new norm, which I'm getting to where I hate that.
I hate it too, but I think it's so true, and it's all dismal. Like I just read, Live Nation has a contingency plan for no live concerts until fall of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Live Nation, in their internal plan, calls for no new concerts, no live events until 2021. And
that's crazy.
That's insane.
Bill Gates, that's what he's saying. I mean, I was reading something the other day because, of course, all you have to do is sit there and read stuff on your phone, read the latest news alert.
I think like Facebook just makes this so much worse too, because every morning I wake up and I'm like, I have this compulsion to look at Facebook and find out what's going on in the world, and it just really sets me off in a bad mood because it's all dismal. It's all fucked up. Disney World's never opening again. You know, Delta's never going to fly a plane again. It's all the things that I like to do are all going away. At least on my Facebook, you know. And there's a lot of experts on Facebook. Trust me. If you take
yeah, there's a lot of experts on there.
There's a guy on my Facebook who thinks that Tom Hanks did not have coronavirus, but he was arrested for pedophilia.
What?
And that it's just a cover story because Donald Trump is running around the world arresting all the big liberal pedophiles. This is why we're fucked.
This is definitely a breeding ground for conspiracy theories and all types of weirdos that were already starting to pop out because Trump's president, but now it's even worse. So
he gives them running room. Like he lends credence to all these insane conspiracy theories that, like, I'm not a bleeding heart liberal, right? I just think whatever makes sense makes sense. But to me, a lot of these conspiracy theories are so. I mean, if you sewed my head to the trunk of my car and drove down the highway, and I woke up like that, I think I would be less surprised at some of the bullshit that these people come up with. It's fucking insane. Yeah. Like frog people and tree people, and there's a war going on there's a war going on in the South Pacific, and we just don't know about it because the media is focused on the flu. We're all focused on the flu over here, but there's World War III's happening on the other side of the country. Yeah. These guys, some people are just really, they're off their rocker that they believe this. You know who I blame? I blame Jerry fucking Springer. That's who I blame. I think Jerry Springer.
A good one to point the finger at.
Yeah. I remember that idiot.
Oh, God. Yeah. And it just got worse and worse as the seasons went on. I mean, I couldn't even watch it anymore, but yeah.
I had friends that were on there. They were on Jerry Springer. I swear to God, I had friends that were on Jerry Springer, and they totally made up the story. It was like a threesome gone wrong or something, right? Yeah. They were married, and they just made up the story, and they called casting, and the casting never asked a second question. They were just like, "Yep, you're on. Congratulations."
Content.
Yeah, content. You gotta get to 1,000 shows. That's where the money is. 1,000 shows. Reruns.
Oh my gosh, that's a good point. Good place to put the finger at.
Yeah, I personally think we get out of this by testing, right? That's my personal opinion, is we get out of this by testing. If there was an at-home test.
It's a big part of it.
Absolutely. Because the reality.
The at-home test is exactly what I was just saying to Jeff the other day. I said, I just sent off for my DNA test to figure out like where I came from and who my parents are and all of that. How come they can't have a test for this?
They're doing it in South Korea. I don't understand. You know that Astrid and I took a coronavirus test. Did I tell you this?
You did? No.
So I'll give you the story. Yeah. So I wake up last Tuesday and I'm checking my apocalypse page, right? And listening to all the coronavirus experts on my Facebook page. Yeah. But some girl had sent a mass message to a bunch of us. She's like a loose friend. I met her twice or something. But she sends this message and she said, I just got my coronavirus results and they're negative. And, I didn't have symptoms, but I'm participating in a trial for a antibody test that tests whether you're positive or you have been positive in the past. And so this certainly piqued my curiosity. And I thought to myself instantaneously, she said, "Oh, and I paid $70 for it, but I'll get the money back if FDA approves this." And I was like, "This girl just got scammed out of $70. Like somebody just went and pricked her finger and charged her $70." Yeah. But I clicked on the link. It was here.
Let me do it.
Let me do it. I'll get those fuckers.
I want in on that.
You too can make $1 million doing coronavirus test. And I'm going to show you how. $79.99. Send a prepaid stamped envelope to coronavirus test. Have you had an opportunity to watch my series, How to Make $1 Million in the COVID pandemic? Watch now.
Oh, no.
Coronavirus testing. Have you gotten your IRS check yet?
Oh my
The
God.
small business lending program is going to make you $1 million. I'm going to teach you how.
So I click on this link, and it's on the page, like it looks legit, right? And it says that we are one of the couple, whatever it says, we're one of the couple hundred laboratories across the country that have been approved to do a trial on the COVID antibody test, which has been done in South Korea, Germany, and China, right? So it's a testing methodology that they use with what they call a reagent that reacts to blood instead of to snot, right? Which, quite frankly, I don't want to have a pencil stuck up the back of my fucking nose. I've had that done for a flu test, and it really is quite disturbing. Have you ever had a flu test or a strep test?
I've had the strep test.
Oh, God,
yeah, it's really uncomfortable. Yeah, you're already in pain.
Yeah, I don't want someone sticking something on my nose. So I thought, okay, I can give a little blood. I don't mind needles. And so it says the girl who I knew paid $70, but now it's $40. Make an appointment here. This is an FDA trial. It is not approved for FDA diagnostic results. In other words, it's not like you're going to the doctor's office and getting an official coronavirus test. They can only do it for informational purposes, but they're doing a larger trial to send those results to the FDA and make sure that they're within the tolerances of what the FDA wants in a test. So I thought to myself, okay, like I'll bite. I mean, I have an extra $100. I'll throw it toward this. And and I called Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they said, yes, we know about this. And if it does get FDA approved, save your receipt and we'll pay you back. So I make an appointment for Astrid and I, but they're clear on the website. The appointments are every 10 minutes. And two people cannot go together. And even if you want to get your children tested, you cannot go in with your children. So it's like children under 3 may not be appropriate because we don't want to handle your kid, right? So this is how it works. I schedule at 2:10 and 2:20. We show up at like 2:00. Somebody calls us. We have to sit in the car. The directions are explicit. We have to sit in the car, wait for someone to call. At 2, it's like a drug deal, right? Basically. Yeah. It's like when I used to buy weed for somebody. I'm going to call you at 2:05. Don't come knocking at my door. You know my girl get mad about that shit. When she leaves for work, I'll call you. So at 2:07, at 2:07, the lady calls me and she's like, Mr. Green, we're ready for you. You can come in the door. You go to the door and the door has a bunch of signs on it. Don't stand outside, get back in your car. We will call you. Unless you've been called, don't knock on this door, right? So I try and pull the door open. It's locked. Lady comes, full hazmat suit, unlocks the door, checks my ID. It's a room no bigger than the room I'm in right now, 10 by 10. Like it's a tiny little room. It's got a big nurse's curtain and then a desk behind the nurse's curtain. So we go around the curtain. And at the desk, she puts down 2 dog pee-pee pads, like the piss pads that the dogs use when they're young. Like my dog uses still, even though she's 5. Yeah, it's a little shithead. And she puts 2 fresh ones down on the desk, and she signs me some paperwork. It's a very nice lady, and I ask her a couple questions. I'm like, oh, so this is the antibody test, right? And she's like, sir, I can't, honestly, I'm not the doctor, and I'm not giving the results. I'm just a nurse that's paid to take your blood and send the blood directly to the lab. So I don't want to give you any information, but here's an email address and a phone number you can call. I was like, okay, I get that. But she was very sweet, took blood, very little bit of blood, took it, then I come back to the car. Astrid goes and does the same thing. She gets called a couple minutes later and she goes and does it right behind me. Before we got to the fucking house, we had the results for both the active and the antibody test. Yes. And it's like a PDF and it says global diagnostics, blah, 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 blah. You're negative. And so it was a little bit of good news. I kind of wished maybe I had it and I didn't know about it. Don't you kind of wish like you have it and you just don't know about it and now you're okay and everything's
now you're okay. Exactly. Yeah.
I want to be one of the 80%.
That's what I'm thinking.
But no luck here. I haven't had it, and look me, I'm going to lose an eyeball or something during this pandemic. But
also, what does that mean? So you tested negative for all of the stuff. So does that mean you guys can still get it, or you're immune to it, or you're immune to it?
No, it doesn't mean we're immune to it. It means
the
antibody test is. I'm not a doctor. But I play one on Facebook, but I'm not a doctor. So don't.
You trained with Doc Scott. Don't forget.
I'm a doctor of massage.
That's right. Dr. Love.
Dr. Love. The doctor of massage. Some guy on like one of these conspiracy websites, some chiropractor in Cincinnati is making a lot of noise because he's a doctor, and like you should see the fucking comments. People are like, finally a doctor who tells the truth. I'm like, he's not a fucking doctor. He's a chiropractor. I understand you have to do a lot of school for that. Like I get it. And it's an intensive process. But a medical doctor and a chiropractor are two totally different things. This guy is not an epidemiologist. He may understand how, I believe in chiropractic, right?
Sure.
But I don't believe the chiropractors understand to a scientific degree epidemiology. I, on the other hand, bought a course called You Too Can Be an Epidemiologist for $99.99. You too can be an epidemiologist for $99.99. Send yourself a check stamped envelope to MakeMoneyInThePandemic.com.
Well, I was going to say that's an add-on to your other course.
That's an add-on. That's right.
Of the making money for COVID.
That's how they get you. Once you buy the lose money in real estate course, it's all downhill from there. It's just like, then how am I going to make up for the $1,000 I spent on how you lose money in real estate course? I'm going to become I'm going to become clever in the pandemic.
Yes.
Ever wonder what the word clever means? It means scam artist. You too can be clever. Now offering associate degrees in cleverness. So what it means is that like there's hemoglobin and amoglobin, I guess, right? This is what I understand loosely about this. And the hemoglobin is the active, your body is reacting currently to the virus. And amoglobin is the antibody, or anaglobin is the antibody. It means your body has already fought off the infection, and it currently has antibodies that will destroy any infection that comes in, right? So if you get it again, then you're immune to it essentially. Yeah. So mine's negative. So what that means is I don't have it, at least not on Monday. I didn't have it. I don't have it on Monday, and I didn't have it on Monday. So I'm not in the clear yet. I'm not one of the people that had it. What's interesting to me is that they did a blind test in New Jersey and Oklahoma. I read these results about an hour before we got on the about an hour before we took an hour to figure out how to get on the call.
My microphone.
Yeah, about 2 hours ago. So they did a blind. They're doing blind testing in New Jersey and Oklahoma, which basically means someone can go into a doctor's office asymptomatic. They totally don't have any of the symptoms, and they can ask for a test and they can get it. And they did this over the course of a week, and they played that out over the population. And what they found was up to 15% of the people who came in that were asymptomatic, had no symptoms, never had symptoms, completely asymptomatic, up to 15% of them tested positive for coronavirus in New Jersey and 11% in Oklahoma. If you play that out across the population on an average, that means that almost, I need to do some quick math here, almost 40 million people, adults in this country, have had the virus. That's good news in one sense, right? 20,000 people or 30,000 or 40,000 people dying against 40 million is a lot better than dying against 500,000 that have had it. That means that the mortality rate is much, much, much lower than anybody had suspected. It doesn't give me much comfort because it seems to kind of be like a random killer. It just seems to be one of those things that just kind of shows up and you either get deadly ill or you make it. And I'm really scared about that. I don't want to die.
Or you're walking around giving it to other people without knowing it. So,
these fucking jackasses. I go down to the river every weekend, and these fucking jackasses are down there collecting like little fucking flies on shit down there. And it's all the teenagers and the 20-somethings, the people who know they're not going to die, right? The problem is they're little fucking murderers because I'm 43 years old, right? I'm right in the crosshair. I feel like I'm in the crosshairs anyway. The more I look at the data, the less comfortable I am. I'm like, because at first I was like, oh, I got to, thank God, it's only people that are really old. Yeah. But then I look, and I'm actually considered old. I'm actually in the old category. So
I know. It's scary. It's scary. I mean, you have to kind of balance it out with just crazy TV like the Tiger King and thinking about getting the coronavirus.
What a fucking shit show that is. Let's get into it. Let's just dig in right into it. Let's get into the big questions about the Tiger King. A, did Carol Baskin kill her husband? Number 2, did Joe actually try and hire someone to kill Carol Baskin? And number 3, How does Joe get so many straight men to marry him? Those are the big questions. Is he a tiger wrangler or is he a heterosexual wrangler? I want to know your opinion on those three topics. Go.
Well, let me go from number 3 up. So as far as getting the boys, the young boys to like him, I mean, I think it's obvious, drugs and animals.
Drugs and animals. That's a great combination.
The lure of the something dangerous, and it's and then throw in some sedatives, some animal sedatives, and some meth in there, and you've got a potent thruple machine.
Hey, get over here. I'm show you my tiger whip, my crystal meth pipe.
Yeah.
When you look at corn, do you look at the big dicks or do you look at the small dicks? Do you look at the dick or you look at the vagina?
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I'm seeing a unicorn. I'm seeing a unicorn right now for that pipe.
I want to take apart your TV. I don't care about porn. Can I put that bicycle back together?
Oh my God, it's so crazy.
I can only imagine the scene that's going on with those, like the three when they just are married, like what the scene is when the door is closed.
Let's also not forget that he was a singing star as well.
Well,
so throw that in. That was the censure.
I told my wife as we were watching this, like, we knocked that shit out in 2 nights, and we got a fucking kid, right? So you know that this shit was good. If we got a kid, I can barely make it through an episode of Family Guy after the kid goes to bed, sleep, and we just stayed up. We were like just fascinated by the first television show I can remember since maybe Making a Murderer that my wife and I were both into together. Yeah. And the part that I guess the part that really got me was Joe, to me at least, seemed like kind of a likable character, right? He seemed like the kind of guy who was just really, at first at least, meant well, and then things just went sideways, like the way they do for a lot of people, right? You get caught up in the fame and the money and the excitement and all this stuff, and you just don't have a head on your shoulders to handle it. And he didn't really handle it. Like Joe was just kind of a Looney Tune.
Freewheeling.
He was free balling.
Free balling in Oklahoma.
Wearing no underwear.
He freaking ran for president.
I feel like we'd be better off.
No, I was going
to say. If Joe Exotic was our president, I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like Joe would have wrangled the pandemic. Like we'd all be a little bit gay, and Joe would have come up with a song that would have made us all feel better. He would have tracked that pandemic down and shot it right in between the eyes. Don't you worry, this pandemic is bullshit. Joe wasn't actually a singing star. I told my wife as we were watching this, I was like 15 minutes in, I was like, when the first song comes on, I'm like, you know what, Astrid? It's not that bad. Like, it's not that bad. It's actually pretty fucking good. Like, okay, the lyrics are a little hokey, you know. I saw a man saw me. I laid on tiger, tiger laid on me. Whatever that fucking song is, I was like, the lyrics are a little bestiality, but it's not that bad. It actually sounds good. It's recorded well, and it really broke my fucking heart to learn that Joe had nothing to do with that music. Like he may have written some of the lyrics, but he sung none of it. It wasn't his actual songs, and that broke my little heart because I felt like that was one redeeming quality about Joe that could like kind of outlive the Tiger King mythos, was that at least he could sing. The guy had a nice voice.
Until it went off the rails too with him singing the song about Carol, and he had like the Carol look-alike, and was talking about killing her.
And he's holding like
my God,
tiger blood in his hand, and he's like throwing it at the look-alike.
The look-alike is like throwing meat to the tigers because that's supposedly her husband, and it was just my jaw was just open.
my bowels moved.
And the whole thing, I think my brow was first furrowed and my jaw was open the whole time. I was just like, what? I mean, this is some kind of parallel universe, but Oklahoma can be.
In Oklahoma, nonetheless. Like, I don't know. I just feel like a gay tiger wrangler wouldn't be the kind of guy that would live in Oklahoma. But he made that like his own little, it was his own little fiefdom. Joe really had it all. Joe had it all.
He did.
Him and Carol were making money off of each other. They both fed off of each other. It was like a codependent relationship. If Joe just would settle down with the killing talk, like you can only threaten to murder somebody so many times before somebody's going to pay attention to you. Right. I mean, Joe, I honestly don't think that Joe paid that guy to kill Carol Baskin. $3,000 is a paltry sum to kill somebody. Would you accept if you were in that business, right? If you were in that business, if you accept $3,000 as payment for murdering somebody, seems like a big risk to take for $3,000.
Do I have teeth or do I not have teeth?
You have some of your teeth. Some of your teeth. And it wasn't because of drugs. They just kind of fell out on their own.
Yeah, poor hygiene. Yeah.
I honestly don't think Joe was trying to murder this lady, and I do think that he was framed up. And I think there are worse people out there that are doing this. I can't believe that in the year 2020 we're this far behind, that we allow these people to breed these cats like this. This is just, to me, it's an unbelievably cruel. It's unbelievably
the heartbreaking part for me, which I couldn't even, when I first started watching it, because I had actually read his story or a story about this probably about a year ago through something online. And I thought, my God, that sounds crazy. But when they really brought it to life over this whole miniseries on Netflix was when it really hit home. And it just, those poor animals were the part. I mean, I'm such an animal lover, and it just really, it wasn't good for them.
Nothing ends up good for them, because then you just it's like you breed the tigers because you're getting $100 a pop to have someone walk through and touch the baby every time. There's 80, 100 people. I mean, when they showed that scene of the people checking into the front of the zoo so that they could get their little picture taken with it looked like Disney World. Their check-in system was better than Disney World's check-in system. Those people must have been making some fucking money and sending people through there. But the problem is that once you get that going, you got to breed more tigers to get more cubs, and they're only good for 6 months. So then what do you fucking do? Then they're big cats that need big amounts of food that cost a ton of money in veterinary bills. You need larger cages, more land. It's just a vicious cycle that never ends. And so my suspicion is, and I don't know this for a fact, but my suspicion is that all these guys that were featured on this, that all own these like roadside zoos, all of them must be doing something with these big cats, because you just can't get away with continuing to breed them and not having places to put them. Eventually you'd have thousands of tigers that, what were you going to do with? Like, just keep on feeding them until they die? I mean, tigers live to their lifespan is like 18 to 20 years old. And so I think it's unbelievably cruel. And I know in my heart, I know that some of these tigers get euthanized without cause, right? There's no causation. It's just a problem. They eat too much. They're too big. They roar. It's like my dog. My dog fucking barks all the time, and I want to throw the thing out the window half the day, right? But I love my dog, and it's just a small dog that doesn't need that much food. If that was a tiger that was making that noise all the time, I don't know. What am I going to do with the tiger? What are you going to do with that? You know who does this a lot?
Cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. You know who does this a lot? It's the Saudis. The Saudis have a lot of fucking tigers, and they put them in their little fucking Ferraris, and they put pictures up on their IG, and they think they're badasses. I think this is a problem all throughout the world. I just don't think it's here in the United States. And I can't believe that local or federal governments don't have a law that says you cannot breed fucking tigers. They're 1,000-pound king of the jungle. They're at the top of their game. They're at the top of the food fucking chain. They'll kill you. How many times did Joe get attacked in that one show?
Oh yeah, all the time. And that one man.
They never did. I never determined what.
I think that she identifies as male, so I'm going to call it him.
Okay, all right, sure.
He had his arm just bitten off.
Them.
They had their arm bitten off.
He had his arm bitten off.
Continued on.
And the bone, you saw the bone. The bone was just sticking out there. It's fucking gross, man. Well, I don't understand why you would want to play with those kittens. So Carol Baskin, what do we think about her?
I mean, I don't think that Carol and I would be friends per se, like in everyday life. And it seems pretty suspicious. It seems vaguely close to a Forensic Files episode that they just were never able to get that DNA. a DNA match from. So, I mean, I think there's a strong possibility. I don't know for sure. It's she had a good story, kind of. You know,
Kinda.
went down to Costa Rica and never came back.
Let me tell you something. I never trust anybody who talks softly all the time besides Mr. Rogers. She
Yeah.
never raises her voice. Never.
Yeah.
And I feel like those kind of people, they just can't be trusted.
That's a good rule. That's a good rule to follow.
Don't you feel like there's something weird about an adult who doesn't raise their voice under any circumstances? Like almost like they're trying to control themselves too much, right?
Yeah.
And I do believe that Carol Baskin had something to do with her husband's disappearance. What that is, I don't know. Maybe he did go down to Costa Rica. Maybe that's why he wrote in the will, in case of my disappearance. Maybe he just didn't want to be in the world anymore. And he decided, I'm going to take $1 million. You have the fucking tigers. I'm getting out of here and I'm going down to Costa Rica where the weather is warm and the women are pretty. You never know. It's crazy to me that the Tiger King has become this infatuation of like I read last night, 80 million people in this country. That's 1/3 of the country has watched Tiger King. That to me, it's like, that's more than the Super Bowl. That's more than the World Cup. That's insanity that so many people have watched this. It's become an absolute fascination. And I hope there's like a follow-up.
We're all staying. It happened like at the same time that we were told to stay inside.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's everything's changing now. It's going to be on TV. And
you know what your homework is?
Oh, okay. Well, I've got some homework for you. Give me homework, and then we'll wrap it up here.
Tell me.
Okay, so your homework is to watch this show. I found it on Amazon Prime last night. I was digging deep, and I was going down that hole of like, what's that about? And then it would say, people who like this also bought this. And
the Prime hole.
You got to watch this show. It's about 90 minutes. Or maybe like 60 minutes. It's called Vannin. VANNIN.
VANNIN or V?
Sorry, vanning, like a van, like a car van.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So it's this whole underground subset of the culture that meets up for these like international van get-togethers. I'm just going to tell you to watch it, and then we can discuss that.
I'm in 100%. I want to know the people that get together.
Jeff and I last night were like, because I thought it was going to be some kind of like tricked out vans, you know, and maybe it was like VW vans. And no, it just started in like the 70s, and there's a whole culture of women get naked. There's booze and drugs and baby pools and margaritas and people that are skinny and people that are way not in shape. It's really vanning, but with no ing, it's in.
So it's kind of like a sweaty boogie situation.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, you want to join me in the van for the boogie? Nope. I'm gonna pass. I'd rather sleep in a mosquito nest than be back in the sweaty van. I'm gonna take a pass on that, but thanks very much.
Yes. Yes, there's
okay.
some sweatiness going on in the van in this show.
So here's your homework, and then we'll compare notes the next time. You have to watch the show Love is Blind. I don't actually believe that you haven't seen this yet, because I feel like this is the second phenomenon for the quarantine is Love is Blind actually came out back in January. So it was a little ahead of the curve. But the truth is that this show is an absolute train wreck of fascinating proportions. They put 20 couples, men and women, 20 men, 20 women into these pods. They cannot see each other. They can only hear each other. And then they do this for a week. This is filmed here in Atlanta, by the way. And then for a week, they all move in and out of the pods until they find the one that they're interested in. And then at the end of the week, if they're super interested in them, they get engaged. And then they go out into the wild together. They go on like a honeymoon, and then they move in together. And it's like, it's a whole, and then I won't tell you anything too specific, but at the very end, they're now engaged. They have to get dressed up, go to a ceremony as if they're getting married. And at the altar, when the priest or the officiant says, do you take this man or woman to be your lawful wedded wife? They have to make a decision in that moment.
Wow.
There are friends and there are family and there are grandparents there. So when they make that decision, And some of them say no. So it's like, do you take this lawful wedded, the woman to be your lawful wedded wife? And they say no. And it's a total train wreck. Like the parents are pissed off and people are like, what the fuck just happened? I came to a wedding and they're not getting married. And some people don't even show up to the altar. It's an incredible show.
Okay, I'm watching it.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us on the commercial break. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Chrissy.
Sounds good. But thanks, Bryan.
The Commercial Break can be found on Facebook and on Instagram at The Commercial Break, or email us at commercialbreak@gmail.com. The Commercial Break is a Great Middle Way production, written and produced by Bryan Green, guest host with Chrissy Hoadley, marketing by Astrid G. Episodes drop every Thursday and Sunday, available where you listen to your favorite podcast. Be sure to subscribe and get new episodes instantly. Thanks for listening. We'll be back in a few days.